Hello, welcome YouTube. We're glad you are with us today. We're recording our podcast today, and we couldn't be happier that you're joining us. Hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day.
Yep.
Or hopefully you treated your wife or your kids, or excuse me, not your kids. Your kids treated your wife or your own mother. You treated them all well this past Mother's Day. I know I had a great Mother's Day, but we're excited about what's coming up. We have a trip that we're taking. We are actually leaving today, Wednesday, and we are flying to Washington for a marriage conference with Highland Community Church.
Yes.
And the conference is being held in Titan, Washington. So we are so excited to get there. And
I assume that's how it's pronounced.
Titan?
It's spelled Tieton.
It could be Teton, like the Grand Tetons.
Yeah, but TIE makes me think of Thai. So that's...
Yeah. We'll find out when we get there, I guess. But we're excited to go and talk about marriage. It's our favorite thing.
Yeah. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. Looking forward to the trip. Getting away for just a couple days. We'll fly out Wednesday, get there late Wednesday afternoon, spend Thursday, James and Mindy, right?
Yeah.
James
Mandy.
Mandy, thank you.
You were really close.
James and Mandy. And then Fridays when the conference starts, Saturday conference, going to be speaking in both services there on Sunday. And then we fly back home Monday. So it's going to be a whirlwind. We took one day in there just to kind of spend some time with friends and relax a little bit before everything gets started. Yeah. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
It'll be great. It is. It's one of our very favorite things to do is to get to go and just talk to a group of people about marriage and invest in families. Invest in keeping marriages together and enriching families.
So if you're in that Pacific Northwest, we'd love to see you. We do have some events coming up at different times. We're finalizing something hopefully for July. Actually, Hopefully this week we'll finalize for July and be able to get you some information about that. We've got an event coming up in August in Ohio, and then March next year. Right now we've got something set up for Illinois. So we're going to be near where you're at some point. We'd love to be able to see you. We always enjoy getting together with our podcast listeners and just hearing your stories, finding out a little bit more about you personally other than just some messages, emails, or whatever else. It's always nice when we can have a two-way conversation versus a one-way conversation with a camera or a microphone.
Yeah, for sure.
So today, we're going to be talking about work capacity.
Thomas's worst nightmare.
Work capacity. Well, here's the thing.
All right.
Anybody's work capacity compared to your work capacity, it's just not a fair fight. So.
Sorry, babe.
It's just not fair.
You drew the short straw. You had to be married to me.
So, it's nice because you get a lot of work done, but at the same time, it's like, hey, can we rest ever?
No.
So we'll chat a little bit about that because you may be in a similar situation. But in order to do that, we've got to jump into the recording. So this is the recording for episode 190. Thanks for joining us behind the scenes here on Family Meeting Podcast. Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my wife, Miss Works a Lot.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 190 of the Family Meeting Podcast.
Family. Oh. This might be a rough one today.
Yeah, it's already a tough start. So on today's episode, I know you're wondering, what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about you and your spouse's work capacity.
Oh, you just said the W word.
Yeah, work. It's the bad word for Thomas. We all have different capacities for everything, including work. And when they're significantly opposite, resentment may not be far behind. And so we are going to talk about that today.
Lysandra and I we've got different work capacities. Let's put it that way.
I feel like it couldn't be more opposite.
Well, I was telling our YouTube listeners, it's just not fair being married to Lysandra when it comes to work capacity because I've never seen or met somebody that has the work capacity that you have. where you can just keep going.
And I'm sorry about that, because I know it's got to be tough to be married to me.
There are some times where it's like, it is past bedtime, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. And I'm up there wondering where in the world you are for hours at a time.
Last night, it's funny because last night I was downstairs, I was working down here, and then I came upstairs because I had some work I wanted to get done in the bedroom. And I was folding tablecloths from our mother-daughter luncheon this past weekend. And my goal, I always have goals, right? So sometimes to, reach those goals, you have to work really late. And I wanted to get these receipts done. So Thomas is we have a king size bed. He's in bed sleeping.
Snoring, I
snoring.
felt out. I was done.
He was snoring, and I had all these receipts on our bed. And they're kind of crunching. I'm trying to straighten them quietly and organize them quietly. And I thought, oh, he's going to wake up. Nope. Didn't even move a muscle.
I was tired.
I was
organizing. Here's the thing. It was Sunday. It was Mother's Day. And pretty much every Sunday I take a nap, and I did not get a nap.
Why didn't you get a nap?
Because I had to facilitate a great Mother's Day for my children's mother.
And a great Mother's Day for me means no napping or rest.
No rest.
It's going to be fun-filled, packed, awesome all day long. And it was fabulous. It was great. But there's just no napping on the schedule if I get to pick what we do in the day.
But what's great now is being the day after Mother's Day, because we're recording this ahead of time, since we're leaving on a trip here to Washington for a marriage conference in a couple of days. Today actually starts Father's Day season.
Oh my goodness, no, it does
And so,
not.
guys, it's time to celebrate. If you need a reason to go fishing or relax or watch the game, you just tell them family meeting says it's Father's Day season.
Half of family meeting says it's Father's Day season. I've never heard of a Father's Day season. Wow, you really just know how to come up with stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about work capacity here. Before we jump into the meat of what we want to talk about, I wanted to put this out here for you because to get your questions. This past month, Lysandra and I at our church did a series called PG, Parental Guidance. You can hit up my socials for the video for that. But at the end of each one of those, and this is not on the video, but at the end of each one of those, we did a parenting Q&A. And had some really great questions. I always love the questions we get. And here's one of the things that we want to make sure that you know is you can ask us your questions. Say I always wondered, or I thought, or hey, just get a second opinion, a sanity check, or whatever else. We had a question about schooling yesterday, homeschooling, sending your kid to public school, whatever else. So whatever the questions are you may have, a lot of people are having the same question. So your question could actually be very helpful to other people. So here's what we want you to do is we want you to send us those questions, ask us those questions. And the best way to do that is by calling 904-257-3062 and asking your questions. And we'll play your question on the podcast and then answer it. And I think it could be a lot of help for a lot of people. So get those questions coming in. Once again, that's 904-257-3062. Look forward to you being a part of the podcast with us.
And I think one thing that's so cool about questions that come in from listeners is that it helps us stay relevant for you. Because we can become out of touch. I mean, we can only live in one season at a time, right? And you can only live in your season at that time. And so we may become out of touch for people who are just starting out with their babies, just starting out in marriage. Or maybe you have much older kids, or you've been married a much longer time than we have, we want to hear your questions about your season and about what's relevant for you, and help us stay in touch with you and what's happening in your life. We care about you guys. That's why we're here. We're here to help and to encourage and to share the things that we did wrong.
Lots.
Yeah. We want you to learn from our mistakes so you don't make the same mistakes. It's like being the youngest child.
Yeah.
I watched the stuff my sister and brother did, and I was like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. So I learned from them, and I have to really thank them. I learned from some of their mistakes, and we want to be the older sibling for you. You can look at our mistakes and hopefully not make the same ones.
Well, and one of the questions we had yesterday was about food, right? And your children, and do you force them to eat it and whatever else? And I'm like, I would probably do things a little differently than I did. And so think about some of the things where I probably wouldn't, make a child eat the same thing, over and over and over again.
And when he says the same thing, he doesn't mean the same meal, like the same type of food. He means the exact same food, just kept getting warmed up.
Because they wouldn't eat it.
They wouldn't eat it, so it kept showing back up.
There's just things where I'm like, you know what, I probably did that wrong. Mm-hmm. And I would answer that a lot differently now. So that's what I love about the questions, because it makes me stop and think about, okay, what did we do? And yeah, I would do that again. I would not do that again. I would not recommend people do that. So
yeah,
look forward to hearing from you.
Let's talk about work, though, baby.
I would love to.
Let's talk about work. All right, here's the thing that we all understand, I think, is that work is important and it is a necessary part of life, right? I mean, sometimes it feels unfortunate, like, I'm so sick of working. And for us, it's Monday. And sometimes you just have a bad case of the Mondays, right? But back to work, here we go. And it can be hard and it can be exhausting, but work is actually good. It's good for you. Work is biblical. Let's look at where we see that work is biblical. 2 Thessalonians 3:10 is one of my favorite verses in the Bible.
That doesn't surprise me. You're so weird that this would be like, there's all these verses about grace and mercy and love and forgiveness. And like, she's like, no, my verse is about work.
I do really like this verse.
This is what I'm dealing with, though, people. This is what I have to come up against, is this person who literally is like, my favorite verse has to do with work.
I'm sorry, honey. Okay, so this is a verse, though, that we would have our kids, well, mostly me, but you did too, had our kids memorize at a young age. For even when we were with you, we would give you this command. If anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. If you aren't willing to work, you don't eat. And we used to talk to our kids about that in the house when they wouldn't want to do the dishes. They wouldn't want to clean their rooms. They wouldn't want to help sweep the floor, whatever it was. And they would do this. Yeah. And they'd be given a chore.
Oh, geez, nothing gets Lysandra angrier.
Oh, man, do not sigh to me. And I would be like, what does the Bible say about work? And they would have to repeat this verse.
If he doesn't work, you don't get to eat.
Exactly. I'd be like, would you like supper tonight? Then sweep the floor.
Yeah. But it's like, it's a great verse because it teaches, hey, everybody needs to be involved. Everybody needs to contribute, which is it's a great teaching. It's a great principle. It reminds me of the little song we used to sing with the kids when they were little. The cleanup song.
Oh, yeah. Clean up, everybody, everywhere. Clean up, everybody do your share.
Yeah, everybody do your share.
Yes.
And so it is a great verse for that.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the children's book, The Little Red Hen. Was one of my very favorite children's books.
Let me guess, it's about work?
Yeah. Do you not know the story of The Little Red Hen?
I do know it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, am I about to educate you, baby? Yeah, the little red hen, wants to make bread, but nobody wants to go get the corn. Nobody wants to grind the wheat. Nobody wants to help carry the flour.
But they all want to eat the bread.
And he said, and he's the little red hen says, no, I ground I can't even remember, ground the wheat into flour, carried the flour. I put the bread in the oven. I kneaded the bread, all the stuff. So now I will eat the bread. And it's all right here in the Bible.
Yep.
If you're not willing to work, let him not eat. But we were created to work from the very beginning. That is how God created us.
Well, and I think some people look at work as it's part of the curse. It's part of, the effects of sin. And that's not the case.
Right.
Before Adam and Eve chose to sin, God still did create us to work.
Right.
The part of the idea is that work is now going to be difficult.
Yeah,
and it's going to be laborious after the curse, whereas as before it was not the case.
Right.
And so I believe even as we, if we accept Jesus as our Savior, we have eternal life. We're going to spend eternity with Him. There's still going to be work to be done. It's just not going to be laborious like it is now.
Right, exactly. So let's see what Genesis 2:15 says, because this is before the curse. This is the Garden of Eden in this beautiful place that God created. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. Okay, his job was to work it and keep it. You were made to work, and so was your spouse. And it's good to understand that. It's good not to begrudge work or hate work. It is good to embrace it. But just because you and your spouse were both created to work doesn't mean that you work the same way.
Yeah.
And I know right now you're like, hallelujah, amen. You got that right, sister. You feel that, right? You don't necessarily have the same capacity to work, and you don't necessarily view work the same way. I think there's a lot of different views of work, and some of it is, I do this so that I can get a lot of money. Some of it is, I do this because I love it. Some of it is, I do this because I absolutely have to. Some people view work as this. We have one daughter that we really feel like views work like this. If I can get out of it, I will.
Yeah.
However I can get out of work, I will. So there's a lot of different ways to view work. And all of those differences about work and how we view it can create resentment and conflict in a marriage.
Yeah.
Big time.
No, I won't, since we're talking about this, I want to remind you, because we were created for work. Mm-hmm. But you need this reminder as well. And maybe somebody out there needs this reminder. Okay. You are also created to rest.
I know.
So we do need to find that balance.
I have not found
which
it.
This is not that episode. We are talking about work capacity and how to work together when your work capacities are very different. But just a reminder, because some of you out there are literally like Lysandra, you identify with that, where it's just work 24/7 until you drop. Mm-hmm. Which Lysandra will do that.
I will drop.
She'll work until she literally has like a physical breakdown. Mm-hmm. So I have to kind of keep an eye on her and encourage her to rest as much as I can.
Yeah.
But the thing is, everyone is different. And as we often remind you on this podcast, those differences make you stronger as a team. Mm-hmm. But as true as that is, differences create friction in a relationship sometimes. We have personally experienced this in our marriage. Lysandra and I have extremely different work capacities. As I mentioned, there's very few people that work as much as Lysandra. And so literally no matter who she was married to, there would be friction when it comes to work capacity. And you have to remember, I'm a lot older than Lysandra.
Yes, you are. Wow.
By at least a day or two. And I'm 43, so you do the math.
Hey, that makes it sound like I'm 43 minus 1 day. No, I'm 39, you guys. I'm in my 30s. I'm in my early 30s.
No, not early.
Yeah, I'm in my early 30s.
You're in the twilight of your 30s.
Oh, don't say twilight of my 30s.
But we do have extremely different work capacities. Mm-hmm. Now, capacity is the maximum amount that something can contain. So, your work capacity is your ability to complete as much work as possible in a specified amount of time. So, a high capacity person is a person who have the same 24 hours, right? Mm-hmm. There's like no secret hack to get more hours in a day. Mm-mm. You might have the hacks to help you get things done a little more efficiently or whatever else, but we have the same amount of time. But they seem to maximize every minute and do more than most can in those 24 hours. And I would put Lysandra in at the top end of that category.
Yeah, and a high capacity for work also is someone who can handle a lot of work. Like, it doesn't bother them. It doesn't stress them out, give them anxiety necessarily. Or maybe it does, but they handle that and continue to work. So that is the kind of capacity for work, what that means. Thomas, what would you say? So you've already shared with everybody what my work capacity is. Like, I have a pretty high work capacity, higher than probably most you in your opinion. What, in your opinion, is your work capacity?
It depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yep.
And there are a lot of factors, right? So depression is a factor, like different things going on in life are a factor. So your capacity is going to be different at different times. I wouldn't say anybody's capacity is the same constantly all the time, but less than yours. I don't know. My capacity is definitely less than yours. So there are times where, and this is something I've had to learn, is to pay more attention to what my body, like my physical body, is telling me, and to help me be in it for the long season. Because what we do, there's a lot of high stress to it. The rate of pastors dropping out is so extremely high, so in order to be in it for the long haul, I have learned to listen to my body a little more closely. And so I pay attention to when I need to rest, when I need to step away and take a break. Or a lot of what I do is computer based, writing messages and graphics and all those sorts of things. And so there's times where I'm just like, you know what, I gotta get up and and go for a walk. And so I change up how I'm working all the time. So even though I'm out for a walk, I might be listening to some other sermon or something, or doing some sermon prep or study. And so it's hard for me to say, exactly.
Yep.
But
so the first thing that we encourage you to do is to try to understand your own capacity for work. That's the first thing you need to do. Are you high capacity, low capacity, somewhere in the middle? Does it depend on what the work is and all of that? So that's the first thing that you need to try to understand. Secondly, seek to understand your spouse's capacity for work. So Thomas and I have both just talked about our own work capacity, and you've learned a little bit more about Thomas and how he works and how his capacity is for work. You need to do the same with your spouse. Okay, so you've got to both share your own. Share what you think about your spouse. Your opinion of, well, from what I can see, it appears to me that your work capacity is this. And then once you do that, accept your spouse for who they are and how they are. This was very, very difficult for me because my work capacity is so much higher than Thomas's that I viewed him as lazy.
Well, and not just your work capacity, but how you work. Because once you start something, you don't want to take a break. You don't want to do anything until it's done.
Right.
And I'm just like, all right, let's get a little done. Let's stop for a second.
What a waste of time.
Let's get, yeah.
Yeah, he's like over here wanting breaks. This is funny because when I was 16 years old, I got my first job as a waitress. And there are a lot of laws in place, labor laws, which I'm sure that many of you have experienced this in whatever job that you have had. And I remember when my manager started enforcing breaks because I had kind of a relaxed manager who just kind of let us do what we wanted. And then I think maybe the GM kind of came in and started to like check things out. So now my manager was forcing breaks, and I would beg her. I'd be like, please don't make me take a break. I was 16 years old, entering the real workforce. Before that, I did office work and babysitting and whatnot.
Slept on the job or whatever.
Yeah. And Dairy Queen. I worked at Dairy Queen for a while too. But anyway, so I begged her not to take a break because when you are a waitress and you take a break, and what happens then is that you have a table and if you take a break, somebody else has to finish the table.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I would do a better job than somebody else because that was going to be my tip. So I cared about it. Right. And then also as new tables come in, you don't get any new tables because
you're on break.
Yeah. So you would lose a lot of money and I just didn't know what to do in the break room. I couldn't stand being in the break room. It was like being in a cage. And so I hated breaks from the very moment I started entering the workforce. And then, of course, I get married to Thomas, whose motto is work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
So he steps back and he looks at a job and thinks about a job and how can I make this easier? And I'm already 10 steps into the job doing whatever it is as hard as I can.
And I'm like, why are you doing it that way? Like, that is the most labor intensive way to do that job.
And I'm like, yeah, but we're moving, we're working. and so my motto is work harder, not smarter.
Yeah, totally.
And then you put us together and we're supposed to be married and we're supposed to be a team in every aspect of our life. And there's conflict. Yeah, it's tough.
And then you add the fact that I would often have a hard time communicating the right way to do something.
Oh, your way is the right way.
The smarter way is the right way.
So that's another issue. That's a whole separate issue right there.
Yeah.
Is believing that your way is the only way to do it. But we won't go into that.
I don't think it's not the
podcast.
Well, I'm not saying it's the only way.
What are you saying?
It's the right way.
Yeah.
You can do things the wrong way. That's
I do. I often do things the wrong way. But yeah, so just understanding who they are and then accepting them. So I had to accept the fact that I was going to be able to work longer and harder than Thomas, and he was going to have to rest. I had to accept the fact that he wanted breaks. I do accept the fact that when he comes on a paint job with me, he's going to want to eat lunch.
Seriously, the first time I go to a paint job with her, big paint job, and it's literally nonstop, no breaks. I barely got to use the bathroom. Mm-hmm. No breaks, work all day. So we finished up that day and I was like, listen, I'm more than happy to help you. We're in this together. We are a team and everything that we do. I have to have lunch. That's it from now on.
I'm lightweight.
I know. Because she won't even stop to eat.
I don't.
While she's working.
Yeah, and that's fine with me. I like it. But yeah,
I'm
I have to accept Thomas.
I need lunch.
I have to let him have lunch. And my kids work for me too. So I have to accept that they need a break and they need lunch. I don't understand it personally because I don't need those things, but I have to accept that they do, right? And so it's really important to understand and accept your spouse.
Okay, so let me put this in a way that you can understand, to help you understand.
Let's do it.
So let's go to the gym together.
Okay.
Now, my capacity for weightlifting is it's a lot bigger than yours.
Way higher.
I can heavier weights and for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Lysandra gets bored in the first 10 minutes she's there.
I get bored in the first 30 minutes. Give me 30. Yes, 30 minutes.
No, because the one time you came up and you're like, I'm going out to the car. And I'm like, we've been here 20 minutes.
No,
what have you even done yet?
You're exaggerating.
No, I'm not exaggerating.
Okay, whatever.
But that's what I'm saying is that'll help you to understand.
Yes.
Because you can't do that for as long. You have no desire to do that for as long as I do.
Very boring.
So
it's true. It's true.
But here's the thing. You obviously want your spouse to accept you and how you are made.
Yes. Right.
Right.
So we have to do that for them.
And we can end up comparing our own work capacity with our spouse and then wonder why it's not on their level. Mm-hmm. So, but here's the thing. This is not a free pass to be lazy, right? We're not just saying, if they're being lazy, just accept them for who they are, because being lazy is not who they are. Mm-hmm. That's not their work capacity. They're pushing off their work capacity. And so just like we've talked about, and you've got kids like this as well, that whenever there's work to be done, they're always somewhere else.
I still can see in my mind this moment in the kitchen when the girls were quite little. I mean, I'm talking 7, 8, 9. And we started doing dishes. And one of my daughters, with a very low work capacity, I can see her out of the peripheral vision of my eyes.
I would not call her a low work capacity.
Okay, what is
She does not like doing chores. That's the bottom line.
Okay.
Because when it comes to other things that she enjoys, she can do them for hours and hours on end.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
This has to do with what we're talking about here. It's just laziness.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to do that work.
Yeah, don't want to do that work. So as we begin to do the dishes and we're all pitching in and working to clean the kitchen, she literally like really slowly and quietly takes a step backwards.
Backpedal. She's backpedaling, literally.
Literally backing quietly out of the kitchen until she's just out of sight behind the other door. I'm like, get back in here.
Busted.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. There's a difference between a work capacity and laziness. Mm-hmm. Just because somebody's work capacity isn't the same as yours doesn't mean that they're lazy and that you're not. Mm-hmm. But it is not an excuse to be lazy. It's not a free pass. Think of what Proverbs tells us. And here Solomon is writing, and he says this in verses 14 and 15 in Proverbs 26. As a door turns on its hinges, so does a sluggard on his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish. It wears him out to bring it to his mouth. In other words, he's so lazy, he doesn't even want to raise his own hand to feed himself. And there are people that are just more prone to laziness. We all have our things that we're kind of more prone to. Some people are just prone to laziness. And so work capacity is not a thing. It's not a guise for laziness to say, well, I'm just a low capacity work person. It's just not true, because you think about the things that you're passionate about. You can spend a long time doing those things, right? And so to me, that's the real sign of what your work capacity is. When you are doing something you enjoy, what's the stamina you have for that? That shows your true work capacity. Because even on things that I really enjoy, like I know when I'm done, I'm just done, and I need a break.
What's your favorite way to work?
My favorite way to work is creative. So developing messages, sermon series, graphics, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Here's one thing.
What's your favorite way to work? Yours got to be physically.
No, I love writing.
Yeah.
I love writing and planning. But I love like cleaning and painting and I don't know. I really do. I love laundry. Yeah, I love it all. So I don't know. I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to answer that. But one thing to remember is that work capacity will change over your life. It's not always going to be the same. And if your work capacity changes, that means your spouse's will too, right?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Work capacity can change due to age.
So you brought this up. Let me ask you a question. Have you noticed you're in the twilight of your 30s? Have you noticed your work capacity change from when you were in your early 20s?
Yes, definitely.
How so?
I get tired faster. I cannot work into the night. My body will not allow me to. It was a couple of months ago that I did a job where I worked until like midnight, 2 nights in a row, and got up at 5 a.m. the next mornings. And I worked literally morning till night for like 3 days. And on the third day, I had a migraine that was so painful. I actually had to drive with the migraine, and I almost got in an accident. It was really, really bad. Could barely see, was nauseated. It put me down for about a half a day and a night. So my body won't allow it. Like I can't lose sleep to work. I can work every waking moment, but the thing that I'm noticing about my age now is that I have to have a full night's sleep. Like I have to sleep from 10 to 5 at least.
Yeah.
In order to continue my productivity during the day.
So I've got to be the one who kind of watches out for Lysandra in this area as much as possible. Obviously, I'm not a like, hey, no, go to bed right now. Like, she's not my child. But I try to encourage her and remind her, listen, it would be wise if you would stop working at this time and get some rest when we've got these big jobs going on.
However, you have come you have come over to me and taken the paintbrush out of my hand.
I have, yeah.
And I needed him to do that. Like, I don't want him to do it, but I do want him to do that.
Because I know
I need it.
Here's the thing. I know that she does not want to stop until it's done, but this is a job that's going to take 3 days.
Yeah.
And so, in order for her benefit, like, someone's got to come in and say, hey, listen, it would be wise to get some rest. You'll work more efficient, and it is smarter, right? You're going to get the job done quicker if you just take time to rest and you're working at a higher capacity as far as like freshness.
Let me give you a perfect example of that. Just recently, we remodeled our upstairs bathroom because we were given a free vanity sink and faucet set. We tore out Thomas.
The girls' bathroom,
Yeah. Thomas tore out the old vanity and sink and the plumbing and the toilet and everything. Mirror, yep. He handled all of that. Then I come in, and my job is lay the vinyl flooring, the vinyl plank flooring.
I destroy it all. She makes it look nice.
Yep, we're a great
That's
team.
our lives.
Yeah. So I'm with everything else we had going on, I didn't get to start the job until probably 5 in the evening, I think.
Yep, it was 4 or 5. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm working, and I got to the difficult part of the toilet hole. I got that hole cut out and got those flooring pieces put in. But that takes a while. So then when I got to the end of the bathroom, where it's the difficult piece where it's you have to splice a piece, and then at the end it has to be bigger because it's going to enter into the closet. I could not get this piece to go in. It just wouldn't go. I'm trying everything I can think of. I'm like ready to cry, and I'm so tired. I just can't even think straight. I'm so tired.
I come in at that moment to kind of check and just see how things were going. I didn't even know you were at a difficult position or whatever else. I just happened to be coming in to check in and see how things were progressing because it was getting late.
Yes. And I'm just sitting there looking at this piece, like cross-eyed vision, And I'm like, I can't get it to go in. It just won't go. And I know it's right. I measured more than once. And he's like, I think you need to go to bed. And I was like, you're right. I have to call it. I wanted to finish the job that night, but I had to call it. I went to bed. And the next morning,
because literally what I told you was you need to look at this when you're fresh.
Yes. You said that.
When you're fresh.
I needed to hear that. I went to bed. The next morning I got up, and I didn't have to recut anything or anything. I walked into the bathroom. I sat down on the floor, put the tools where they needed to go, and just pushed, and it snapped right into place.
Yeah.
It was seconds. And I thought, oh, I've got to learn from this. Lysandra, learn from this. If you're too tired, it doesn't matter like the willpower you have to work. Your body, your mind is done. You need to rest. And it's more efficient to rest and get up the next morning and have seconds rather than hours to do something.
Smarter, not harder.
Exactly. So I'm working on it, right? But that's where the team comes in, and you need to help your spouse with those kinds of things. But another thing that can really change your work capacity is health. And this would not only be physical health, although that will change your work capacity, but also emotional health, mental health, because as Thomas mentioned, his depression, if it is worse, his work capacity suffers.
Oh yeah. There have been times, and there are times where it's like, literally I can't, like getting out of bed is exhausting in and of itself. And so trying to get all the responsibilities I've got to get done besides that just takes everything. And so it can be very tough. So I've had I deal with the mental health side of things, but Lysandra, you've dealt with the health side of things as well. And we've talked about your health issues in the past that you've had, which thankfully now are all taken care of. But,
those things changed the work capacity.
Where you were just like literally couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
Because of the health issues you were dealing with.
And so the thing that you need to understand is maybe the spouse that you married is not the same spouse that you have today. They cannot work to the same capacity that they did when they were younger or when they were healthy or when they didn't have the mental health issues. And you have to understand that. And maybe don't push them so hard. Maybe give them some grace. Maybe get some counseling on how to be a supporter of someone who's dealing with physical health problems, chronic mental health problems. Also understand that work capacity is going to change in different seasons. So I worked probably just as hard when my kids were babies as I do right now, but my work when they were babies basically was taking care of the babies.
Yeah.
That filled my life because I had so many babies so close together. It filled my life. That was all the work I could really do. I could do a little bit for church and keep the house. And I was done. Like that was the full capacity. So understanding that seasons also will affect work capacity and pay attention to these factors, be understanding of yourself and of your spouse during the different work capacity seasons.
So one of the things we want to talk about here, in dealing with different work capacities, and how to maybe limit some of the frustration and conflict and friction that can arise because of it. First of all, we need to communicate expectations. So let's be more than open. We talk about communication all the time. And as far as work expectations, workload, so let's think about this for just a second. What are the things that we need to communicate? First of all, you should communicate what you hoped your spouse would do. All right. So when talking about a certain job or whatever else, hey, this is what I want you to do. And so when Lysandra and when I come and I paint with Lysandra, she's my boss because it's her company, right? So her paint company, Lysandra's Palm Coast Painting, if you're looking for a painter. But she's the boss. And so she's very good at communicating what she expects and wants me to do at the job. Hey, this is where I want you to start. This is the rooms I'm expecting you to do, and all those sorts of things. And we need to be able to do the same thing around the house, right? Because this is where most of these things come up. Most of you don't work together like we do at church and at other jobs, because that's just our lives. But all of you, you're a family, right? You're married. You're together in a relationship. You're in a household. This is where most of your issues are going to arise. So who's doing what around the house and how much? So talking about those expectations. Hey, listen, you're expected to make sure the trash is out for trash. The dishes, whatever else. Or the expectations are this person cooked the meal, so this person is the one who's going to head up the cleaning or whatever.
These expectations can be set before you even realize that they're set. A lot of times our expectations about workload will be set based on what we saw our parents do in our home growing up. So if your dad was the one who mowed the lawn, you're going to probably expect your husband to mow the lawn. If your mom was the one who cooked and cleaned, you're probably going to expect your mom to cook and clean. But not all homes are the same. And so understanding that those expectations will be different, you need to communicate them. How much do you expect your husband to work? How much do you expect your wife to work? What kinds of things did you expect them to do? And communicating that, it's really important.
So I think one of the things you need to communicate as well is whether work is overtaking them or you feel like they're lazy. Mm-hmm. So there are times where I have to communicate to Lysandra, hey, listen, you are just working too much. Mm-hmm. Like your work is coming before our family time. Mm-hmm. It's coming before our time that we have together. And you are prioritizing just work and checking things off your list more than you are the relationships in and around you. This is something I've never had to communicate to Lysandra. I feel like you're being lazy.
Yeah, that's not something you've ever said, although I've said that to myself.
Yeah, when Lysandra takes a break, her mind is telling her, you lazy, get up and work. Mm-hmm. But you may have to communicate that, hey, you know what? I feel like I'm doing most of the work around here. Like, I feel like you may not say the word lazy to them because that could start a thing, but you may have to, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they are being lazy and that's what needs to be said, but maybe you need to communicate it in a little nicer way.
And the way that I've had to communicate with Thomas is I've had to say, I need you at this season to help me get through. I need you to work more. And so I may say, like, I need you to work more in the painting business, or I may say, I need more help around the house, which means, and I'm going to be specific about that too. I need you to help me in the garage because I cannot handle the workload right now. So I need you to help me organize, the painting equipment or whatever it might be. So it might not necessarily say that, okay, I feel like you're being lazy, but just explain to them what you need from them.
And then just always working to clarify. Okay, you need me to step up in certain areas at this season because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, what exactly do you need me to do? And then, all right, how do I go about making sure that gets done? Because there are certain tasks that I just don't do hardly ever, especially now that we've got 14 girls. And so there are things where it's just like, you know what, where do you keep this so that I can get this job done? Like, where is the laundry detergent so that I can do the laundry?
We keep it close to the washing machine.
Yeah.
That's working smarter, not harder.
That's wise. Yes.
Right. But even like the other was, I don't know, a couple months back when I was just swamped and Thomas offered to go grocery shopping for me so that I did not have to do that. And I was like, thank you so much. And he's like, okay, I need you. And you're like, I need you to tell me how to do this like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So it's where to go, what to buy, what size, how big, the brand.
Right, brand, everything. Yeah.
Everything. And he did it, and he did a great job.
But communicating those expectations are a huge part of resolving the conflict. Because a lot of our conflict comes when we just don't clearly vocalize what it is that we need or expect or would desire. Mm-hmm. And so most of your issues can be resolved just with the clear communication.
Absolutely.
Because for the most part, like, this is the person you love, right? So if our spouse needs us, like, we want to meet those needs for them.
Yeah.
Like, that is the general desire for most of us. Mm-hmm. You may be in a relationship where that's not the desire right now, and that is tough. Mm-hmm. We still got to work on communicating, our expectations and all those sorts of things and being clear.
Well, and maybe the way that you are communicating the need that you have is you're not necessarily saying, I need you to help more, I need you to work more, but you're saying, I need you to rest with me. I need you to come to bed and not work on the computer half through the night. I need you to be with me. And sometimes that is the communication that you have to make. Another thing to communicate is your frustrations. Make sure you're communicating your frustrations. And to do this, you're going to use I feel statements. You are not going to attack your spouse and tell them all of the ways they're failing.
You lazy piece of garbage. Get out of bed. Da, da, da.
You obsessive workaholic. All you care about is work. No, that's not going to help you.
No, these are not things we've actually said to one another. That sounded like an argument we could have.
Yeah, but thankfully we have. That's one thing we knew better than to say those things, right?
Yeah. You may think them.
Yep. But you never say them. So I feel statements. This is why I feel frustrated with your work capacity. I feel like you love work more than you love me. I feel like you are not working to your capability. Okay. So it's I feel statements. I feel exhausted because I am working so much. I feel neglected because you are working so much. You hear the I feel statements, right? It's not you are working too much.
Yeah.
It's, I feel like you are working too much, or I feel exhausted because I'm working so much. Okay. So pay attention to how you are communicating, but you have to communicate your frustrations. We have so many people that we have counseled over the years that say, I didn't want to tell him how I was feeling because I didn't want to make him feel bad. That does not help. You are not helping him. You are not saving him. It's very important to communicate your frustrations, but you have to do it in the right way.
And then communicating desired growth, right? So let's talk about how we can improve. I'd like to see you grow in the area of work. Or, hey, you need to work on resting more, because there is a balance to be had, right? Mm-hmm. As we talked about in the beginning, like God created us to work, but he also created us to rest. Mm-hmm. And so thinking about some specifics, okay? And one of the things that we've talked about is making sure to praise the good that's being done.
Yes.
And so having a conversation with Lysandra sounds something like this. I'm so thankful for the work that you're putting into our family. The hours that you spend putting in paint bids and going and doing the paint jobs, all while managing our home, the finances, and overseeing the stuff, right? Listen, you're working so hard. I'm so thankful, but I need you to make sure you're not scheduling things for Friday. Like, Friday is our family day where we spend time together, where we take a break from the work in our lives. And so these are conversations like we've literally had to have. But making sure that we're being specific, and this kind of goes along with the communicating clearly, but in the desired growth area. Like, hey, listen, I want to see you grow in this area of learning how to rest. And then helping her to see the benefits, right? And we talked about this just a second ago. Like, if you're fully rested, your mind is fresher, you're able to think more clearly, and that will help your work capacity grow. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to be able to accomplish so much more in a shorter amount of time because you've got the rest that you needed.
Well, and I like how you said, growth, right? It's growth. Like, someone who has a high work capacity or a low work capacity cannot change themselves overnight.
Maybe it's high rest capacity.
Yes, high rest capacity. I like that rather than a low work capacity. You can't just change that overnight. You can't just all of a sudden be this whirlwind worker or this excellent rester. That's just not going to happen overnight, but it's about growth. So I'm growing in that way. I'm scheduling less on family days. Maybe that's the goal for growth. It's not like cold turkey. I don't know what it needs to be for you, but figure out how just to make strides in the right direction.
Well, and one of the things I try to do with Lysandra is I try to communicate to her what I'm doing.
That has helped me a lot.
So, hey, like just a lot of what she does is out and about, and then she'll come home. Well, here's the thing. If she comes home and finds me playing Call of Duty, like, her first thought is, this is what he's been doing all day. And
yes, it is.
The whole time I'm gone, he's been just doing this and being lazy. So one of the things I try to communicate to her is, hey, I got the podcast edited, scheduled, social media for the podcast is all out and scheduled. I have got the YouTube video rendering right now, which takes some time. I'm going to take a break for a little while and do this, like, just FYI. Yeah. And just kind of filling her in the loop of what's going on. Mm-hmm. Not just so that she can understand, but also that helps hold me accountable to, hey, move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm.
That has helped our marriage so much, you guys. It has helped so much. Because there was this period of time where it seemed like every time I came home, he was playing Call of Duty. And I was like, it's taken over his life. It's all he's doing. Oh my gosh, we have a problem. I'm like seeing like crashing and burning and seeing the atom bomb. It's just like, it was like a panic thing. But it just so happened that like he was working while I was working. And when I would come home, that was what he was doing. He was taking his break and all I was seeing was the breaks. And so it has really helped for him to just tell me like, this is what I'm doing. This is the work I've accomplished today. And it's not about me being his mom, but it's about us being able to share the teamwork so that we both know that the load is being carried together.
Well, and I understand her work capacity and her view towards that capacity. And so being able to clearly communicate, and she can know that, hey, things are getting done. Mm-hmm. That helps to, alleviate some of the things where she could just jump to a conclusion about something.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, communicate personal goals. It is really important for all of us to have personal goals and to communicate them. So speaking specifically about work capacity, maybe your goal is to rest better, to rest more often, or to have a better work-life balance. And so if that is your personal goal, communicate that goal to your spouse so that they can help you. Maybe you want help being held accountable like I do. I want Thomas, and he has permission to speak into my life and say, I see from the outside looking in, I can see that you are falling apart because you're working too much. You're not resting enough. And so I need him to say that. And so maybe you want your spouse to help you to achieve your personal goals in the area of work capacity, whether it is resting more, working smarter, not harder, or maybe it is working harder, and that's a goal you have. So communicate that goal to your spouse and talk to them about how they can help you with it. So you're going to be very specific, and that's what we always talk about with communication is specific communication. So you're going to say something like, my goal is to be more productive in my computer work, but I need some maybe help from you. And here's how you can help me to achieve my goal is, if you can just ask me at the end of the day how much I accomplished on the computer today, I would really appreciate that. And then you can do that. So I'm just making this up, but whatever it might be for you, maybe you need to say, hey, my goal is to have this much productivity today. And in order to do that, I'm going to ask you to help me by just listening to me. So like Thomas does, maybe you just need to share with your spouse and have them listen to you. I accomplished this, and this. I'm going to take a break for this long now. And it's just telling someone else that keeps you accountable. And you just want to you want them to help you achieve your personal goals in the area of work capacity. And maybe you're looking to increase your work capacity. There's this interesting idea out there of one way to increase your productivity and your work capacity is to give yourself less time. That seems counterintuitive. But you think about like if you oversleep one day, your alarm goes off, you realize you overslept, and you have to get out of the house in 10 minutes rather than in 50, and you just rush around the house getting everything that's really important done so that you can get out of the house and get to work on time. You got done in 10 minutes the same stuff that you got done in 50 minutes.
Maybe not the exact same stuff, but
the most important.
The end result was the same.
Yeah.
You got out of the house and got where you're going. You may not have taken a shower, right? But you put on deodorant and you cut the corners that you had to cut at the time, right. And the result was the same.
Yeah. Or like when you forget that you had a deadline at work and all of a sudden like you see on your calendar, oh my goodness, that report is due today. And you drop everything else and you put all your time and effort into getting this report done by the end of the day because the deadline is here. So the idea is give yourself less time to increase your work capacity. And
I am highly motivated by deadlines.
Yes.
So my philosophy is if it's not deadline time, it's not time to do it yet. Mm-hmm. And so that's been part of our thing as well. Because some things in just life, like there's not really a deadline for, as far as I'm concerned. Like there's not a deadline to when the dishes are done. They have to be done anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And so learning how to do some of those things and just be more cognizant.
And it's hard when you're married to someone like that, when your deadline is now for everything.
Yeah, your deadline is always right now.
The deadline for everything is right now.
But one of the things I've been trying to do is pay more attention. And when I see something, then go ahead and do it, whether it's our upstairs bathroom trash or whatever else.
Yeah.
And so that has kind of helped as well.
It has helped. It's been great.
That's a whole nother podcast.
All of these things, though, are communication, right? Communicating to help understand and accept you and your spouse's work capacity and to work together as a team. Because ultimately, when you work together as a team, you are working on your marriage. And it's going to be great. So
family meeting tonight is you're going to sit down and just have a conversation about work capacity. And this could include the entire family. And just talk about, okay, let's rate everybody's work capacity.
This could be dangerous. Be careful how you do it.
So, do you think people have a high capacity, low capacity? And I would suggest a 1 to 10 rating because that's always fun. See where everybody lines up. So I'd go around first and have everybody rate each other, and then you rate yourself. Like I think and just kind of see how closely you match up to each other. But part of this process is learning to understand our own work capacity, but also learning to understand the work capacity of the people who are in our family. And that does a couple of things. That makes sure that certain family members who naturally work more aren't taken advantage of.
Yep. And
we're also helping those who maybe have a lower work capacity grow in the area of stretching themselves. And, I think in a lot of ways, work capacity can be like weightlifting or any form of exercise, running or whatever. Slowly over time, you can raise that, right? Each of us still, no matter how much I lift weights, there's a certain there's a max. Mm-hmm. Like I'm never going to be able to lift as much as like a Mark Coleman or an Arnold Schwarzenegger in their day, right?
Right.
But I can lift more than I could 2 years ago if I keep at it. So we want to help our family members grow in these areas as well. So that's a big part of just coming to understand your own work capacity and the work capacity of your family members.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family as we talk about a topic completely irrelevant in our home and one we know nothing about.
Perfect. I could talk about what I don't know all day long.
But it may be extremely relevant for your family, so we're going to talk about it. We're talking about raising boys to be chivalrous gentlemen.
Oh, I got a lot of opinions upon this, even though I don't have a boy, because I've got 4 daughters.
Yeah, and you know how you want them to be treated, huh?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that next week, how to allow your boys to be boys, but teach them the proper way to treat women, starting with their sisters and their moms.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's still weird having boys come around the house, but
they do. We have boys more often now than ever before.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
I enjoyed our family meeting today. I hope you did too. I wonder what your work capacity is. Share it with us. What ways do you work extreme or rest extreme? Where are you in the whole spectrum there?
I am perfectly balanced between rest and work.
The word perfect comes up a lot when we talk about you.
Yeah, that's true.
I am one lucky lady.
She is amazingly lucky. Mm-hmm. So I think your spouse is lucky as well, because you look like you've got the balance down between work and rest.
Yeah. What a perfect person you are. Share it with us, though. We want to hear your secrets. And we hope that you will have a fabulous week until we meet again next time. Bye-bye.